What you are seeing is the final version of this data analysis project designed to tell stories through data. The color scheme quickly shows whether trends are positive or negative. Selecting a range reveals percentage differences, adding clarity to the data. This is a real-time monitoring system because the project is a complete end-to-end data system from scratch, handling every stage of the data analysis life cycle. Data is collected through Google Forms, and each time a new submission is made, the dashboard updates automatically. Just a simple refresh is all it takes. The data is automatically stored in Google Sheets for cleaning and processing. This step ensures the data is accurate, structured, and ready for meaningful analysis. The dashboard is then published online and can be accessed through a simple link, remaining fully dynamic and interactive. This project showcases your skills in data collection, cleaning, processing, analysis, visualization, and interpretation of the results. This project involves developing a real-time ESG and emissions analytics system to help an organization meet growing environmental and regulatory expectations. As a data analyst, you are responsible for designing a centralized data pipeline from standardized data collection via Google Forms to automated emissions calculations in Google Sheets. The system tracks greenhouse gas emissions, scopes 1, 2, and 3, across 8 cities in 4 countries, while also monitoring carbon offset efforts. A dynamic Looker Studio dashboard presents the results, helping decision makers identify trends, take action, and communicate ESG impact to stakeholders. To achieve this, we will start by creating a well-structured form in Google Forms to collect the data. Next, we will link the form to Google Sheets, where we will add calculated columns for automated processing. Finally, we will connect the sheet to Looker Studio to analyze the data, build the dashboard, and interpret the results. I would like to invite you to use this project in your own portfolio, and feel free to explore my other projects for inspiration or to showcase your skills. If you need access to the final files for any project, don't hesitate to reach out. Join our community and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. Now let's get started. It's like my voice sounds a little bit weird. Anyway, let's get started. Right, the first thing to do is to open your email address. Then you click here and you select Forms. Welcome to Google Forms. You have multiple templates, but we are going to create one from scratch. The first thing I will do is to right-click and translate this page into English because my first language is French. So when you create a form, the first thing is to actually bring an image. It is not mandatory, but in my opinion, it helps users to actually take the form because the forms look quite appealing. So you have default images suggested by Google Form, or you can also import an image from your local machine. I'm going to choose any image. So this one looks like sky, like emission carbon to me. So I'm going to select that one. So the second thing after the image is the title of the form. So I'm going to call this ESG and emissions. So I'm going to highlight everything and bold it by just clicking on bold. So I'm going to write a description for this form. So the description is simple. You can put any description, but it should actually tell us what the form is about. And a little motivation like accuracy is important. So I click on the plus to add the first question. So I'm going to call it country. It's a little bit difficult because I've translated the form into English, it makes the thing quite difficult, but it's fine. I will find my way. So I'm going to highlight this country and click on bold. Now I click here for the data type. For the data type, I'm going to click on multiple choices. What does it mean? I am going to give several options, and the user will just select the option he wants. And per the project scenario, the company operates in 4 different countries: Cameroon, Germany, India, and the US. So these are the 4 countries that the country operates in. So I can click here on glimpse or preview, so I can see how the form looks like when it's going to be deployed. We have the image, the header, the description, and the country, where the user can select only one because we have put as data type multiple choices. I'm going to tick this box because it's going to make the question mandatory. I click on the plus, or you can just click on that suggestion box that comes to actually add another question. I'm going to call this question city, because per the project scenario, the company operates in 2 different cities in each of the 4 countries they are operating. So I'm going to highlight and bold it and bring the several options of cities. In my opinion, the takeaway is that we always emphasize on data visualization, data cleaning, data processing, data analysis, but we don't focus enough on data collection. And there are industries where you can join the team and then you are involved into data collections. So what usually happens is that the manager or the general manager can just meet with you as data analyst and tell you what is the project, what is the goal they want to achieve. And you as experts or data analysts, you will find out what tools to use, what stuff. So for this project, we are using Google Form to actually collect the data. So you should get used to this. Things like what is the correct columns or questions to ask, and what insight we are going to derive from this column, and what is the best data type for this kind of columns. Things like that. It helps you to actually be in the mode of collecting the data, right? So these are the 8 cities of the project. I'm going to tick this box to make the question mandatory. So I'm going to change the data type. Instead of multiple choices, I'm going to select drop down list. So let's go back to the preview. If I refresh it, you will see the difference between multiple choice and drop down list. Look at countries and look at city. It's because country, if I select, you will see it is multiple choices, but city is a drop down list. Drop down list is this. It doesn't take too much space, and then the user will just click to see all the options and then select. But the multiple choice is actually showing you all the options. So I'm going to change, instead of multiple choice, bring drop down list. Why? Because if it is just like 1 or 2 options, you can use multiple choice. But when it's like quite a lot, you can use the drop down list. The next column is the date. I'm going to select as data type date and tick this box to make the question mandatory. I click on my plus to add another question. I'm going to call it electricity. So I'm very sorry, the form is quite stubborn. I think it's because I've translated the form, so it's like kind of confused. But I will find my way, don't worry. Alright, let's call it electricity consumption, right? So what does it mean? This is the consumption of electricity by the company, whether they are renting or they have built their house, right? Or the offices. So for the data type, I'm going to put short answer. What is short answer? That means the answer is going to be short, but it can be both text or number. But I'm going to put this mandatory first. I click on the three dots. You can click on description here to put a description of the column, like maybe electricity consumption. Please I don't know, put the kilowatts of electricity consumed within the month for the person who collects the data to know what the question is about. Let's preview this. I put just hi as description. You can see this hi is just under the question, right? But as I put it as short paragraph, it can be both text and numbers, so we have to correct it. Let me clean this description. I don't need this because the question is quite clear. I'm going to the three dots and click here. So once you come here, you make sure you are in number, and then for the next one you click integer. What is the meaning of integer? It means that the question should be whole number, right? So if I refresh the review, I put whole numbers, it is fine. But if I try to put like text, it is giving an error. It is unfortunately in French, but it's going to say that we should put whole numbers, right? So let me include the next question. The next question is actually going to be about the gasoline, right? How am I saying right? Sorry. So the gasoline use, right? Why can someone close my mouth? So I just want to put it in liters. Okay. So let's assume the company is a big company because they operate in like 4 countries, 8 cities, and then they have many cars. Each car consumes like fuel, right? So that fuel also generates emissions that we are going to count. So I'm going to make the question mandatory, and I'm coming here. I also put this question as integer, right? So now I'm creating the next question. So this question now is going to be about I want to put the material source, but it's quite difficult. All right, the material source. So what does it mean? It is in tones, the material source. So it means that for all the suppliers, those items purchased by the company to other companies, so the emission generated by those companies will enter into our emission in scope 3. Scope 3, I'm sure you have come across the data description and you have seen what it means. But I'm going to put for this one number and then greater than 0. Why am I putting this? Because it is going to accept decimal value. If I keep putting integer, I will only be able to put values. So now I put a warning. If somebody puts something that is not okay, this message will pop up. Okay, so now this is our materials sourced per tons. So if I put 2.4, it is fine. But if you put a text, it will refuse. So the takeaway here, in my opinion, is that this is how we generate actually decimal value. But if you put it where I put as data type integer, the 3.5, the decimals, it will give you an error. Remember, if you are using a French form, instead of the point to represent the decimal value, use the comma, else you will keep getting errors and errors. So for English people, I mean those who use the English version, they should put the point to represent the decimal value. So the next question is the transportation mode. So I'm going to put this question to give several options. I mean 4 options. The transportation of the material purchased by the company can either come by air, rail, ship or truck, right? So I'm going to make the question drop down list as the other ones. So I make it mandatory, and then I think we are good to go. So no, tons is not having E. I'm sorry. So let's go back to the preview. So if we preview it, you can now see the last question that has come. So everything looks good in my opinion so far. You can see the country, the user can select the country, you can select the city, you can input the date. Okay, so here you can select the year over here, the months and the day. So for the electricity consumption, you can put only integer, whole numbers, but for the material source, you can put decimal value. And then for the transportation mode, there are 4 modes of transportation for the items purchased by the company, because the emission pulled by those companies are also shared with our company when it comes to emission. So I'm going to copy this from somewhere and then paste it here. I don't even know why I did it. Okay, it's just TCO2E, right? So you just write the T minimal letter. This is very important. Sorry, go to setting to allow your form to actually collect the data. If you go to response, there are 3 options. This is default that I put to verified, but they do not take means it won't collect email addresses. The verified is only the email addresses that Google has verified that will be able to tick the box. And here is for the users to actually manually input their email address. I'm going to go for the verified because it's simple. So let's come back to our tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So we are creating the carbon offset purchased column. So as you can see, this column is going to be for the carbon offset that the company purchased. So I'm going to highlight it, I will bold it to make it look appealing. So I will click here to make the question mandatory. So I'm going to the data type and then I put it at short answers, and then I go to the response validation under the 3 dots. I make sure I'm at number and then greater than 0. And then for the error message, I put that if someone is writing a text, he should get this pop-up. Please enter a decimal number. So everything looks good. So what we can do right now is go back to the preview form and refresh it to check if everything is okay. You can now see the email address ready to be ticked. It's because it's only the valid email addresses that are showing. So what we should do right now is to go to answers, because we are now going to clean and process our data. Go to link to sheet. The first one is create a spreadsheet. So if it's a new spreadsheet, we click on that. But if you already have an existing spreadsheet, it is the second one. We are going to create a new Google Sheet, right? So now this is a new one and it is linked to our Google form, right? So you can see it is in French. So I go to file, parameter. So if your Google form or your Google Sheet or whatever is in English, not in English, this is how to set it. You come here and then make sure you log into your current email that you are using for the project, and then you come to language. You select English. Yeah. and then it is done. So if I go back now to the form, I click on register, you can see now everything is in English. So as you have noticed, probably English is my third language, so I'm sorry for all the English teachers for the mistake for breaking your English. So I'm going to click here to get the link that you can share with your colleagues or whoever are going to fill the form. You can click on shorten so that you can make the link to look short. So I'm going to a new browser and then I paste the link. You can now see the form looking very good, appealing. So I'm going to tick my email address to confirm that it's going to register it. So I'm putting the date and everything, and I told you that I'm going to send the Excel file having all these entries so that you can just copy these entries there, at least the first or the second one from your depending on you. So everything here is true. This is a project, it's like it's just for a project sake, so it's not actually company's data. But I asked ChatGPT to generate the data that looks like real data, right? So yeah, so I'm almost done. So please, if you have question, don't hesitate to put it in the comments and kindly join our community, right? So I always double check before making any submission. It's a very good practice. You should start doing that. And you can see when you go to Google Sheet, the submission is automatically populated because this Google Sheet is synced with the Google form. So I'm just going to stretch this column to see each column header as well. So the next thing we can do is to actually create a calculated column, right? So let's calculate the scope number 1, which is the emissions. So I am not the one to say that we are going to calculate the scope number 1. What happens is that it is known by everybody who are actually into carbon credits and carbon offset that the carbon emission is divided into 3 categories: scope 1, 2 and 3. The scope 1 is actually for the internal usage of things. Like for this project, I just put the gasoline. That meaning that it's a very big company. They have a lot of cars. They have many cars, and then each car pulls, like, because of the fuel it consumes, it generates some emissions, right? It is that emission that we calculate to get the scope number 1. It is just going to be gasoline times 0.25, which is actually the default measure used to calculate the scope number 1, right? I am not the one who is saying that it is that number. It is known like this. You can go online and then generate it. For the scope number 2 is actually for the electricity. So now it is 0.45. We multiply it by the electricity used by the company. So in all the offices, the houses and everything, that electricity that is used there also generates emission that we also calculated based on the kilowatts, right? So now we have our scope 1 and scope 2. That I hope you guys understand a little bit if you are not from this kind of background, which is honestly understandable. But just remember that there are 3 scopes to calculate the emissions generated by a company: scope 1, 2 and 3, right? So and each one is actually, the calculation is known by everybody. So you just generate what your company generates, like in terms of light, in terms of fuels and stuff like this, and then you make the calculation. For the scope number 3, it's actually the items that the company purchased from a supplier. The emission that supplier generates is divided into we get some parts of that emission because we are purchasing their products, right? So now the emission when the product you are purchasing is delivered to you by truck is different when it is delivered to you by air, for instance. So, and it's already known. So let's assume that, let's write a formula that if let's come to the former, we show you the transportation mode again. So you can see that we have 4 type of mode of transportation. Let's start with the truck. So if I2 which is actually our transportation mode, so if it is equal to truck, so what should you do? You should do 0.15. Why 0.15? Because worldwide, or it is known that for trucks transportation we calculate it using 0.15, and then we multiply it by actually the transportation distance, because if the farther the place you purchase your item is, the more emission it generates, right? And then we multiply it by the material source, and then we divide it by 1000. Why do we divide it by 1000? Because we want the result to be in tons per carbon dioxide equivalent, right? If we don't divide it by 1000, it's going to be by kilograms. So for the actually formula to bring the cursor down, you just press Ctrl with your keyboard and then you press enter. It will bring the cursor down to the next row. So, and then shift it till you reach where the first parenthesis is, and then let's put our second if. Now we have our first one. If it is truck, the calculation is there. If the transportation mode, which is I2, is now, let's take ship, that maybe you have purchased, I don't know, whatever, maybe the company bought new items, and then the transportation mode for those items are from the ship, right? The carbon actually when it's from the ship is a little bit different, so it's just going to be 0.02, and then we multiply again by the distance, the transportation distance, and the material source, right? And then we divide it by 1000, which is to get it in tons. So let's just copy everything, and then we change the mode of transportation, and then this time we put 0.03. But the truth is also that some countries, these values also sometimes varies across countries. So like maybe the one they generate in China might be different from, I don't know, in Africa. So instead of using these figures for Africa, they might use like less. I don't know what they actually use to know what numbers, but these are like known numbers. So if you are from a country, they know what is the values that they use. So our formula is okay. I will copy this and paste it so that you can just use it straight ahead. So now we have our scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So do you know what we can do with those 3 scopes? We can actually get the total emission, right? Because we just addition, or we just sum these 3 scopes, right? So sometimes it is called gross emission, sometimes it is called total emission. So the total emission is just the total greenhouse gas emissions a company generates, both for all scopes 1, 2, and 3, right guys? Yeah, so I hope you get the point a little bit. So if you are a little bit lost, it is actually understandable, right? So the total emissions, apart from using the sum, we can also use just a normal calculation, but let me show you the sum. So you just put equals to sum of, I just highlight everything and then I get the result, my total emissions. Or you can use another formula. You just put equals to, you put scope 1, which is L2, scope 2 M2, and then scope 3 N2, and then you just press your enter and then you get your gross emissions or your total emissions. So now we have the total emission generated by the company, and we have the carbon offset purchase. What is the carbon offset purchase? So it is actually the emission reductions a company has paid for. So usually it is through external project like reforestation or renewable energies, right guys? So that is it. So now we have both the gross emission and the carbon offset purchase. We can actually calculate our net emission. The net emission is simply the total emission minus the carbon offset purchase. So what happens is that the ideal scenario is that we get a net zero emission. That is when the carbon offset fully cancel out gross emissions, resulting in net emissions of zero. You get the point? So like the company achieved net zero emission by offsetting 100% of its carbon footprint. So we also call it carbon neutral, which is often used it's used interchangeably, right, with carbon neutral, net zero, and things like that, right? So now let's make another submission, and then you will see how the new submission will just come, and then all the calculation will just apply to those new submissions, right? So if those terms are new, once again, it is completely fine, guys, because even to me it's not that like it's my main domain, but the project just shows that as data analysts we can actually use data to inform decision making, right? So let's submit this. So once again, before submitting any form, you double check your work to avoid mistakes, right? So now it is submitted. When we go to Google Sheet, it is automatically populated in our database. So now all the calculations are well assigned, right? Just the decimal value that is changing. So I'm going to just make it like 1 decimal value. So people used to say carbon negative, climate positive. That is when a company offsets more than its total emissions. So like actively reducing global emission. That is by going climate positive. The company like offsets, let's assume maybe 120% of its annual emission. That is amazing, right? That means the carbon they offset, the purchase is actually more than the footprint, which is amazing. Okay. So I'm just going to change the name of this form, right? And then also for the tabs, I'm going to change the name. Okay. So as I was saying, this is the Excel file that I've been using. So the first 2 entries are the one that I have manually like added to the form. But let's assume that a company has already started collecting data, right? After you have created the form, what you just have to do is to copy the data and then go and paste it in the database or the Google Sheet. And then I'm pasting it starting from country, because remember the date and the address email are automatically generated by Google form, because Google form actually we have set it to accept the new submissions, the email addresses. So now if I scroll, you can see all the calculation just boom appear, right? That is amazing. So I can just highlight this like this, and then I double click so that the emails too can fill the gaps. So everything looks okay. So apart from that, I'm also doing this once again because and making all these entries manually, like more than 500 entries, that is a lot of time. That is why I'm like, okay, let me generate this Excel file and then we all use it to populate our data so that we don't waste too much time. But I created the form just for you to understand the importance. I also see how we can use Google form to collect the data. So if you want to add a new row manually, you just go to add rows, right? You just click maybe one and then one new row will come. Let me undo it. If it's a column, you can just come here, you create your new column and you are good to go. Okay, now let's move on to data visualization. You can go to extension and go to Looker Studio, or what you can do, you can go to your browser and then you type lookerstudio.google.com. So welcome to Looker Studio. So you can click on blank reports, but you can also see some template. So you are going to be asked to input some data about you, your country and your company and things like that. So you can put any data. Me, I'm putting India and stuff, but I'm not currently in India, despite I would have loved to visit the country. So once it is done, you click on blank report. So once we are there, this pop-up will come asking you to connect the data. So we are going to click on Google Sheet and then we are going to click on the name of the Google Sheet we are going to use. In this case, it is actually ESG and emission, right? So don't tick the last one. So just tick the first two ones. The first one saying that your table is having the header as the first row, which is correct. So the second one asks you to include hidden data, which is also what we want. So now we have imported our Google Sheet to Looker Studio. Congratulations. So you can look at the data type, which is the first thing we do once we are in Looker Studio here. So you can see the country is actually read as text because you can see it is AB. So you can go to resource, we click here and then we go to edit. So let's look at the country. So you just click on the data type and then you go to geo. Geo is actually for the location, and then you click on country because it is the country column. So and then you click done and you close. Now as you can see, the country is now read as a location. So you can go to theme and layout to see a template of a dashboard that you want to use. This is an option, but for us we are going to customize a template from scratch. So you just click here on primary style. So we are going to change the color to this gray. Why gray? Because this is a good color and also it's what I feel to put. So you can actually put anything, so I'm just also putting something. But if you want to see the color gray, so you have to put actually the text, how the text should looks like. Once we put it, the gray of the background will show. So I don't know what to choose, guys. Let's maybe choose this one. choose So okay, for the color of the text is actually black. So now let's go to shape. Actually we are going to put our title. So just put something like that we start from start to end of the sheet, right? So just something like that. You can drag it and make sure that it is actually occupying the whole top. So you come here, you click, and then let's choose this color for instance. Oh, it is too bright. Maybe I think this one is okay. Or okay, let's take this one. This one I think we go. So and then now once it is there, we can bring like maybe the logo of the company. And this thing, I just went to Google, I say download image of carbon emission, just something like that, and then I downloaded, I put. But actually it is where we put the logo of, you can decide to put the logo of the company, right? Me, I'm just putting it like, okay, this is the logo of the company from this scenario. So I'm just now going to add a text. So you just drag like this how long you want it to come. So I want it to be like this, so I think it fits the, don't hesitate to like edit it, to customize it to look, the way you want. So let's give a title to this dashboard. Let's call it ESG and emissions analytics dashboard, right? So now you can see that it is small, so you highlight everything, you come here, let's put maybe, I don't know, 34, or yeah, maybe 34. So let's center, no, not center, let's leave it on the left like this to be close to the, and then let's highlight everything and rebold it, right? So here like this, what can we modify here again? I think we are good to go. So actually I haven't done the dashboard before, so I'm just doing it with you like this. So you can also guide me, just tell yourself that do like this, you will see how I will do. If you want to try, look, you try something, you see how how you do. Okay, so what, have you tried something? You have not? Okay, I mean I'm just kidding. So let's go to add a chart, right? Let's add this scorecard, and let's take the one with total. It is the KPI. So you just select it and you put it anywhere. So we are going to put it somewhere here on the top left. So you can come here and select the data source. The data source is if you have several data sets and you want to select a particular one. You have selected. For the date range, you can leave it to date. For the primary field, metrics means numbers and dimensions means categorical columns like A, B, C, D and stuff, right? So me, I've clicked on dimension, like to say that I want it to be number on metrics, sorry, right? So by default you will get something. This is how Lucas Studio is, but you can actually click on the column after metrics, saying that I want columns for numbers. I'm going to select actually the column. I want the net emission, because this is the most important. What is actually the net emission of your company? Is it like zero emission, like, which is amazing, or something like that? Or if it is positive, that means it's bad. So let's come here. Actually, let's go to sparkline. You can see, let's click on period. What period? What we are trying to do, we want to put like a versus last month. So I'm saying show as progress. If I can even untick it, or I can leave it to 0. So now you should tick this box, the comparison, right? You come to this calendar. I think it's good to have previous year. You can go for previous month, it's up to you. So and then I validate it, I apply. So the comparison data range is now available, but we can't see it because we have not selected the date. Let's go to add control and we add a date range, right? Let's put it somewhere here. Now it is asking us to select the date. Once we select the date, it will now give the comparison versus last month. So it is made up of like the start date and the end date. So for the start date, let me put January 2025 to maybe January 2025 December, right? So you can now see the percentage difference between previous year. Remember that the data set starts from 2020 to 2025. So this line 2, this square thing helps us to understand the data better. Let me put maybe 2024, January 2024 as start date, and end date I put like 2024 December, right? So you will see how this thing will change, and you can see the value was 12.33 for previous month. Now I put the previous month, it is actually 12.33, which is good. So let's go to style to actually shape this, to customize this. Now the comparison is doing by default. If the result is positive, it is green. If it is negative, it is red. But I want the contrary. That's why I'm changing. So if the number is positive, it is red. If it is negative, it is green. What we are changing here is only for the comparison, right? Now here you can add a title to your card, but I don't want to add that. So now let's go to compact number. If we tick this, the number will be compact to 1 decimal value, or you can come here and actually decide the decimal value you want, right? So to actually generate this month over month comparison here in Lucas Studio, honestly it is the best tool for that. Now let's hide the comparison label, right? We can hide this. Now for the comparison, let's call it versus previous year, so that the user can know that we are comparing versus the previous year. Now remember that when we created the comparison, we selected versus previous year. If I click on show absolute, you can see how it changes, right? So if I maybe go to circle, you can now see the progress actually in the form of circle. If you click on none, it will not come. If you click on bar, you will see the bar coming, right? But I think for this project we are going to put none. Just the percentage different like this is okay. So if I come here to missing data, I can leave it like this. Now for the label, I think I can increase it. By default it came to 28 pixel. So let me increase this a little to maybe, I don't know, 36, or maybe let me increase again. Yeah. So this is the major KPI, the net emission. That's why I want it to be quite big, right? So this is where you can change the color of the whole thing, right? Except the previous month versus previous month. Now to hide the field is actually the title. The field is the default title of the KPI, right? But because remember that at the first one you could actually include a title. So the field name is actually this default title. The field value is actually the value, so we can like put it at the middle. We can center it, right? Let's center it and then we resize it. But this KPI, I want it to be like visible by everybody at a glance, that wow, the company net emission, or the company yes, net emission is this, because that is the main figure. So we are still on style, trying to edit this. So maybe let's put it to 0, like the gap between the label, the value, the percentage different, so that there is no big gap between them, and it can help us to gain some space. As we have noticed, Lucas Studio at a glance like this, the space is not actually plenty as in other data visualization tool. Now for the background color, if you click here, you can put a background color to your KPI. But me, I don't want. I want it to just be transparent like that. So I think we are good to go. I checked everything. So if I add the border now, you can see now the borders are visible. It was not visible at first, but I will leave it added like this, so that we can differentiate it from the other stuff, right? So okay, we are good to go for this first KPI. So I can right click, I go to copy. Instead of creating everything from scratch for the next KPI, I can just copy and paste it here. Okay, so I'm going to make this one to be half of the net emission. Why? Because the net emission is the main one. So I click on the primary field, which is having the metrics, the column. I see the list of my columns. Now I want the gross emission or the total emission by tons carbon, tons of carbons, what do we say it again? For this comparison field there, I want it to remain like this, because what happens is that if your total emission is positive, that means it is very bad, right? I mean, it will always be positive, right? Because no matter what you do, your company will be generating carbon emission. So that's why I maintain the same thing. If the percentage difference is like plus positive, it should be negative. If it is like negative, like it should be green because it is good. But on the contrary, the carbon offset purchase, it is good when it is positive. Why? Because the company should purchase actually carbon offset. So when the percentage difference is positive, it should be green. When it is negative, it should be red. Likewise the two other KPIs, right? So all right, please hope you get the point. So if you don't get the point, I think the data description that I sent you can help to understand. Else maybe ChatGPT or any AI tool can also help to understand. Because if you don't have knowledge of this, it's totally fine, guys. Don't kill yourself or all right. So this is exactly how I want, because the net emission is the main KPI, followed by the two other ones. Okay, so now for the date range, I can click on it and then I go to style. I'm going to format it. I'm going to increase the size to 24, right, so that it can be clearly visible. Now if I select a range, like let's take a start date for 2023, from January 2023 to January to December 2023, you can now see how the percentage difference is positive everywhere, and you can see the net emission is even negative, which is amazing, meaning that the company purchased more than the total emission that they generated. That is fantastic. They generated actually 493 and they purchased 499, which is amazing, right? I wish every company could be like this. Like the carbon offset purchase is like higher than the footprint. That's amazing. The footprint is actually the total emission. So now I am bringing the filters, right? So I bring the drop down for the one. By default, Lucas Studio always bring a column, but you can click on the column and change. I change it to country because I want to be able to filter my dashboard by country. Okay, so you can see everything is dynamic. You can click here to get your data back, and then I go to style, So let's try to make it look more appealing. So let's go to the text. Let's increase the size a bit to maybe 16 or 18. So the tip here is that the takeaway is that the most important figure or most important data should be like really visible than the more or less normal data. That's why the KPIs are quite big. But for the filter, it doesn't need to be that big, you know. I'm just saying that for next dashboards that we'll be creating, that it's not good that the KP, like the size of the filter is as big as the rest of the dashboard. Like there's nothing that stand out from the rest of the stuff. So let's keep like customizing this. Let's give this color, for instance, or maybe no. So center vertical, so let's put it to 0 so that it can be at the corner, but it's 2 at the corner. Let's give it to maybe 4 or maybe 8 or 5. Okay, I think it's okay. So for the background and the border, you can actually change it here, but if I put it 0, you don't see any change, right? Because the square is not visible. So I have to change it to 100. But before, let me do something. So let's add the border. So now the border is added. So let's come back here and then let's make this sorry, let me undo a little bit. So let's go to style again and then let's go to let's come here to background. So no, it's not actually, please, sorry, I'm very sorry because I'm doing the dashboard with you guys. Like I didn't have time to prepare very well. So let's go to style, we go to background and then we put it to 100. You will see how what I want become like the bar around the filter, and then it rounds it a little bit, like it becomes kind of nice. So let's change the date range again and see how things will change. So let's put maybe 2025 January to December 2025. You can now see the percentage difference and the current figure of that year. So you can also add like this. No, let me remove it. I don't want to add the border for the filter for this date range. So maybe, yeah, it to 0. Guys, if I've lost you somewhere, please shout help, and then I will send angels to come and hold you. I'm sorry if I sound so like going too fast. I don't know. Okay, so I'm just checking to make sure that every color is set well, right? So if I select maybe only India, I can see the percentage different and all the data that I want. Let's select Germany. Okay, so guys, what happens with data storytelling is that you shouldn't talk too much to present your dashboard. Your dashboard should talk by itself. So this aspect of putting the color condition is very good, because when someone just sees red, by default they understand that, hey, what is wrong? Okay, so let me copy and paste this filter here, and then I just want 3 extra like 3 filters except the date range. So I'm just going to click on it and then I paste it again to have 3. Oh, it's too big. So I will just click on it and press delete, or backspace. So let me reduce this and then I copy it and paste it again, because I want 3 drop down KPI. Sorry, let me undo it. These things are quite difficult to carry sometimes. All right, so guys, please, I hope you follow and then everything is fine. And I'm very sorry if maybe I'm going too fast or my explanation is not that good. I'm just also trying to find a correct word in English, so I'm very sorry. Maybe if you speak French, you can actually join my YouTube channel where I'm comfortable speaking French. Not that I'm not comfortable speaking English, but I know there are some 1 or 2 mistakes that I make. So that is why I'm sorry if maybe it distracts you from what the video is about, the main purpose of the video. So guys, for what I'm doing, this editing, there is no training that will teach you this. The only thing is we are just trying to make the dashboard to look appealing in the eye, right? So in the eyes, so as you can see, I'm just trying to make it like balance, right? All right, so you can see I can now filter by city. If I select the city, the data automatically get filtered. Right, same here for the country. We don't want the country. Let's go and select the transportation mode. So you just scroll down to our column that we want, which is the transportation mode. So now if I select maybe only by air, you can see, or by truck, so you can see the data updating, which is amazing. Right, so I think we are good to go about this. If I click on view is more or less like you are previewing the dash, how it's going to look like. So you can see it looks pretty good. We have all our 3 filters. We have our KPIs with the comparison versus last year, and I can click on edit again to come back to the form, and let's go to theme and layout. Right now we click on layout. So to get there, don't click on any chart, just click on the dashboard without clicking on any chart. I'm putting it at initial hidden. What it happens is that if I go to preview again, this untitled report and stuff like this won't show again, right? You won't even know that it is Lucas Studio. I'm sure for the introduction of the video, some of you guys were like, hey, what data visualization tool is this and stuff like that. It's because you can hide this in Lucas Studio. So paste style. So this paste style is actually a way of pasting only the style, only the customization you have done, right? You can now see that when I bring the cursor down, this logo of Lucas Studio disappears. So a user can't actually know what tools I'm using, except if he reads the link of the HTML, the HTTPS, like the address. If you see Lucas Studio, you know that it is Lucas Studio, which is also a pretty good one. So now let's bring our map. Let's add a chart, and then we add this bubble map. So by default, I say Postgre, Lucas Studio brings one data, and then it shows the country. And then as you can see, the 4 countries we have been working with, right? But we are going to customize this a little bit, maybe bringing it by city. So let's click on country and click on city. Now you can see the data for all the 8 cities. So for some of them, they are quite close, so making it quite difficult to see, especially when we are going to add a value to the size, right? It might hide some cities. So now let's go to size, and then we are defining the column that we determine the size, and we want to get the net emission, right? Now for the color, let's bring the country, like it colors by country. So I have clicked here, nothing came, which is quite weird. But sometime I've noticed that Lucas Studio also misbehaves like this. But no, it's not a misbehaving, sorry. Oh, Mr. Lucas Studio, if you listen to me, I'm sorry. It is not actually there that we change the bubble, the size. I will come back to that. So for the map, I put it like this to make it look, to me, more appealing. But it's true that I've shown this map before to someone. He said he doesn't like this. So I don't know about what you think about this, but it's up to you to bring the map you want. So I'm going to change the title. You remember, to change anything, you click on the chart, you go to style, and then you will see all the formatting. If you have some small experience with other data visualization tools, I think this one won't be that complicated. It can be new, which is understandable, but not complicated. Okay, for the bubble size, let me put maybe this one like this. Yeah, you have seen that some are hiding the others, right? So but it's fine. So let's make it 50, the transparency, and maybe 5 here. No, let's bring it back to 1. So for the color, I actually don't want to put this color. I'm going to put the color based on the country. Okay, show the zoom control, I'm going to untick it. Show the street view, I'm going to untick it. Show the full screen control, yes, I want it. Now show map types control, I don't want it. Show the scale control, I don't want it. Okay, so I want this to come at the top. So let's put the size of the front color to maybe to this. Let's change the front to Arial. Okay, so what can we do again? Yeah. Okay, so guys, please don't say that Lucas Studio is difficult or any. In general, data analysis is not to make that difficult. It is mainly new, right? Once you don't know, you find it difficult, but as soon as you put your hands on it, like you try it out, like you complete some project, I think you become good. I'm sure even if it's your first time to go through Lucas Studio with this project, by the end you'll be quite confident, right? So let's go to color dimension, and then we put the country, and then it is colored by country. So what can we actually change here? Let's bring this to Arial. Okay, maybe 14, so that people can actually see the legend very well. All right, let's go to style, and then let's add a border to this chart. Looks good. Let's go and preview it. So you can see that we have to scroll in order to see the map clearly, but actually it's not a problem because Lucas Studio made it like one page. You can scroll small, right? So the map is quite interesting. So when you hover the point, you can actually see the values. But one problem with Lucas Studio, I don't know if you have found a solution, but for the map like this, you can't get the label on it, like seeing all this without you hovering over the points. But if you know the how to do that, kindly share it in the comments for everybody to learn, I myself included. All right, so I think it looks good to me. So maybe let's go to add, right, to the conditional formatting. Now we are going to format the main like value, not the percentage difference. Let's add a first value. We say when it is greater than 0, the color should be red, right? Look at what happened. This is now the value. It is no more the percentage difference. So if I select maybe Berlin, you can see this one is not greater than 0, so it is not red. So I will click again there. I will go back to style, and then I add a new row, right? So I'm now saying that when it is less, no, let me say less or equal to, because even less than 0 is fine. No, let's put less or equal, because when it's also 0, it is net emission, like 0 emission, which is fine. When it is less or equal to 0, the color should be green, right? And then if I filter the city, I go back to Berlin, you can now see that it is green because it is less, it is negative, which is amazing. So let's do that for the other one. Instead of doing it manually for each one, I can just copy, right click to this chart and paste the spatial means is the style, that we are pasting, right? So yeah, I'm just trying to look for one that is green for the total emission. It is like during that year 2025, this current year, we are not doing well in terms of the total emission. We are just going higher and higher and higher, which is understandable because it's cumulatively, right? So for this last carbon, let's go to style. We go to add conditional formatting. Let's start with the first condition. Let's say when it is greater than 0, what should happen is it is very good, so the color should be green, because the carbon offset purchase is actually the carbon offset that the company purchased. It should be higher, the value should be positive and high, right? Now if it is less or equal to 0, it's so bad because the company is polluting the society, but they are not actually trying to clear their footprint. So now if I preview the form, I think you agree with me that it starts looking some way, like more or less appealing. Yeah, you can come here to your data. Here you click on add field, you add a calculated field. A calculated field is actually a column that we are adding based on the calculation. So now we are going to calculate to compute the year, that from the date we just generate the year, right? So for that, just type year. No, sorry, I put year week, just year, and then you open the parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis let's bring our date column. You can just click on it if you come. So now it is ready to go. Let's save this. So the calculated field is saved. We go to done. So you can now see our year column. So it's going to compute to get only the year from the date, right? So let's bring maybe this bar chart. So now we want to compute the total emission, or the gross emission, compared to the actual carbon offset purchased, right? So let's come here, we bring the year, right? Let's bring it as the column. So for the date range, let's remove the date range. Do you know why I want to remove? Because else when someone puts the date, it's not more going to be the normal year. So I'm deleting the date from the date range. The date range is actually that selection that helps us to filter the data, but I don't want it to affect this, because this I want it to be a constant figure so that we can track the trends over time, right? So like over the years, are we like getting like close to a zero emission, or we are like it's getting worse, right? So I'm going to sort it. For the metrics, sorry, where is it? Yes, for the metrics now, I want the total emissions, right, which is the offset, the total emissions, the gross emissions, compared to the carbon offset purchased. So you have seen what I've done for the year, right? I've just sorted it from descending order. So for the title, let's turn on this title. So we are going to the title. Okay. So let's remember that all these figures are by tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, right? It's not by kilogram, by tons. All right. So now what we can do we can change the color to, I don't know, this orange, like this. I will come and change the color later, don't worry. So let's reduce this to maybe 18, the title to maybe 18, and let's call it yearly total emissions versus offset, carbon offset purchased, right? All in tone of carbon. Yeah, so I think it looks good to me. So for this title, let me also go there, I bold it, and then I change the color to this. Why am I putting the color to that one? Because it is not good when there are too many colors in your dashboard. So we should try to always be more or less like consistent in columns, right? So now I come here, I scroll down. When I'm in star, I'm going to change the colors, right? So now first I'm going to show the data label, which is exactly what I want. So it can be visible very well. So I'm going to stress this a little bit well so that the label can be visible. Then for the color, instead of the orange that actually represent the carbon offset, I'm putting green because it is the good one. In terms of the total emissions, I'm putting red to say, oh, this is unfortunately that this is the amount of uh, of carbon emission that we generate. Okay, so what else can we do? Let me check. You can see we have for the axis we have two double. Let's just put one is enough. Right, let's align both axes. Anyway, it doesn't even matter because I've deleted one. So now for the left axis, I need it. I don't need it, I'm sorry, because the chart is labeled, so the value for each bar is actually visible from the top, so it's useless to have the y-axis again. That's why I took it off. So what can we change again? Okay, show axis line. So now for this grid line, this is it here. Let's untick this so that the grid line can go. So we don't need a grid line anymore. So I can click on it, I go to style again and scroll to the bottom and try to see the front size. So let's increase it to maybe 14, right, so that we can see the year very well. So the legend is displayed. So now the alignment, let's put it like maybe 16 for the legend, right, for people to know that when it is green it is about this, when it is red it is about this. It should be a little bit visible like that. So let's change the typing to maybe let's go to star. Okay, let me change this to so yeah, maybe something that I can also share is that, as you can see, no one did this project before I did it. I am not following any YouTube or any this thing. Not saying that what you are doing is wrong. To tell you that to get to this level, you have to practice, like creating dashboard here and there, you start getting some tips. Like for instance, a bar chart like this, why not just a line chart? What have I chosen a bar chart? Because in my opinion, when you are comparing two metrics, even if it's over time, for most of the time, the bar chart is enough to show the comparison over time. Especially the time is just here like this. I think this is the best chart to use. So when we view it like this, I think it looks good in my opinion, right? So we are good to go. And remember that I removed this from the date range so that the date doesn't affect it, because this is like a constant figure. We just want to see yearly if the figure of this year is better than the one of last year, or it is worse. Or we want to see for each year and see the trends, right? So you can see, for instance, that in 2022 the carbon offset purchase was quite good because it was better than actually the footprint. Same for 2023, right? So I just copied and paste this. So I'm just deleting the columns. So for the metrics, I'm putting the net emission, just the net emission. I can come here to chart and modify the chart. I'm going to bring this line chart to now view the net emission over time in terms of year. So let me unfold it, fold this, and then we go to style. Now for the title, let's call it like yearly net profit trends. Hey, I say net profit as if it's a sales project. Sorry, yearly net emissions trends, right? So for this line like this, we can increase the size a little bit. This is the line. Let's put it to maybe 4 so that the line can be visible from afar, from far. Now for the pointing, it's okay. So let's add the label, right, so that people can know. For this stepped line, me, I don't like it too much. I know someone who likes it a lot, but me, it's not my favorite, so I prefer to go without it. So for the data label, you can see everything is correct when the label is there. It gives more explanation and clarity to the chart. Now for the color, let's give the black color for the for the writings, for the the label. Well, I think 14 is fine. Let's bold it. So the idea is that people should actually see the data, right? And it shouldn't they shouldn't feel overwhelmed because of putting all the axes and stuff like this. So once you have put the label and it is clearly visible, the label is no more useful, in my opinion, in most of the time. So let's keep modifying to make it look good. Right, maybe let's untick this axis, right? Now show axis, let's bold this, and then so once again, sorry to repeat myself, but we are trying to make each chart to look neat, right? When you look at this line chart, for instance, you just see the x-axis with the year, and then you see the graph, and then the label is on the graph. It's simple, but it conveys a lot of information, you know. So we can see that, for instance, in 2022 and 2023, they did very well. It's because, as you can see the comparison on the first chart, that 2022 and 2023, they actually purchased more than what they have actually, what the footprint. Sorry. So let's bring another one. Now let's bring a table, a simple table. Because if the scope 1 and 3 were in terms of categorically, it was category data, we could have just like generate the distribution of each scope to see which scope actually generates more emissions. But since it is actually in terms of number metrics, so what we are going to do is to bring the table and see the year, what is the scope 1, and then let me add what is the scope 2, and finally what is the scope 3. So to see all the 3 scopes by year, and we see which scope is actually generating more more emissions, right? So this table is simple, but actually it conveys a lot of information, because to get the net emission, it comes from this to get the net emission, it comes from the total emission, right? And the total emissions comes from these three scopes. So it's important to know the distribution of the scopes. Maybe per year like this, it helps to have an overview of how the scopes actually is generated, or is impacting, or it's actually distributed. So let's call it scope 1, 2, 3 emissions distributions by year. So let's bold this one like this, and then we can just click on the text. We give this color to be consistent in our coloring, and then what else can we do? Maybe okay, for this name, let's wrap text like this. So when it is not ticked, you can see everything, but it takes too much space. So let's just like untick it so that we can just see scope 1 emissions, scope 2, and stuff like this, because it's more important than that it is concatenated a little bit like this. So let's click on, for the table body, let's click on auto height, right, so that it can be balanced in terms of height. So now for the horizontal scrolling, it is an option you can put to scroll the data, but let's untick that one so that the data can be distributed very well. So what else again can we do? So for the compact number, we can actually, you remember for the previous chart, the compact number, we just remove the decimal value to 1. If we change it to 1 decimal value, but I think 2 is okay. We have started with 2. Let's be consistent. So what again? So actually it's not like after this I have to check this after the, no, there's not such recipe. It's like you are just trying to find settings that will make your chart to look simple, but to convey a lot of information as possible, you know. So that is why I'm just scrolling up and down and see what is actually the setting that I can use. So if you are from maybe Lucas Tableau or Power BI, even if you are not very familiar with Lucas Studio, but you can know actually what to look a little bit, right? Yeah. So I think it looks good like this, but we have to scroll. So show field description. No, it doesn't change anything. So now let's preview the form. Guys, I'm sure you agree with me that now this dashboard actually looks not that bad. I think it looks quite okay in terms of what information is supposed to show. Guys, if you have worked as data analyst before, you know what I'm talking about. It's so painful when you work hours on a project, on a dashboard, and then at the end of the day, the company or the people who are supposed to use the dashboard, they don't. It's actually painful because all the sleepless nights and stuff were actually useless. So it's very important that the dashboard conveys very important information, else it will look good, and but people can, continue using their Excel and their formula than using your dashboard. So that's why when I look at the dashboard, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think all the answers of the business problem that we read are answered, because they are trying to monitor their key metrics, right? And it is actually exactly the key metrics that they have, and it also help them to try to understand in terms of trends yearly. How is it going versus previous year? How do we compare you get the point? It's actually helpful, and the dashboard is definitely going to be used, and you are definitely going to have an increment of your salary. That's one. No, it's not true. It might be true, why not? Like, wow, what a dashboard! I double your salary. Okay, so let me put a range. So now from that range of just from January 2025 to December 2025. So in 2025, the company recorded net emission of 18.69, you see, which is about 151.6% increase from previous year, which is huge, despite a slight 3.5% reduction in total emission. So this increase is mainly due to a 4.9% drop in carbon offset purchase, right? So we can also see that the scope 2 emission remains the highest contributor, with around 271.56 tons of carbon. So you see, it is followed after the scope 2, it is followed by scope 1 and then scope 3. So when it comes regionally, we can see that the US shows the highest net emissions, while Germany achieved net negative emissions through strong offsetting, which is wonderful from Germany, right? So in general, what we can say is that although emissions are decreasing, the reduction in offset has negatively impacted net emissions performance. This is my observation. So that highlights the need to strengthen offset strategies and focus on scope 2 reductions, because that scope 2 is the burden of the elephant in the room, right? So this, for instance, is my analysis and my interpretation of the data only for this year, right? So now what we can do is actually come to the form so that you can see how it looks like. So let's make a submission. I'm going to change the account. Let me bring the data professionals account. So I'm going to tick the box to record my email. So I'm going to select the country. So now I'm putting any data, but for the data I'm going to put 2026, so that you can clearly see how the dashboard updates, right? So for the electricity consumption, so I'm just putting random data. So for the gasoline, I think I can put 105. For the material use and stuff. So let me check here and see what the kind of value again that each columns accept. And okay, let me increase this. So now what I'm doing is actually showing you how the project remains dynamic, right? So if you have reached so far, that means congratulations, and I'm sure you are getting the same output with me. So I'm just trying to select the transportation mode by air, the transportation distance. Let me put this 531, and then the carbon offset. So what value can I put? Maybe 7.4. So I'm now going to check the data again before I submit. Please, this is one takeaway. Check your data before you submit. So now the submission is done. So when you have copied and pasted data, it doesn't enter into the Google form. So this is actually the third submission of the Google form. So you can look at it in the third submission of the Google form is actually what we just put, because what we have copied, Google form doesn't recognize this as the submission he made, right? And if you want to delete it, it is here that you can delete and things like that, right? You just press this delete button. So once it is done, so now we can go to our dashboard. So look at the year 2026. The value for the KPI won't change because we have already selected only for 2025. But if you check at the trends, you can see 2026 has been added. So if you want the KPI to change, let's add January 2026. Now the data is going to change a little bit, right? So everything is dynamic, everything is systematic, and then our interpretation and our recommendation will help the company to actually refine their strategy when it comes to actually scope number 2 reduction, because it's actually the burden. So let's share this dashboard now online. I click on share. So I'm going to click on restriction, so only people added can view or the form or something like that. So I'm going to make it public, like now anybody with the link can actually view. I put to view, I don't want people to be editing my dashboard, so I put view the form, right? So if you want the link to the dashboard, I can send it to you. You can view the dashboard from your end, right? So now to make sure it is working, so we can open a new browser and then we paste the link. So you can see the dashboard remains the same. Everything looks neat, but the comparison doesn't show because we have not selected a date range. So every time a user is going to open the link of the dashboard, he has to select the range before the comparison year can show, right? So let me select this range. Now the comparison shows, which is amazing. In my opinion, this dashboard is actually full of insight, and then we can actually analyze not only the year 2021 but in general, right? Like for example, for the USA, they are the one with the highest emission, right? And it is all about offsetting, right? Because Germany is actually achieving a net negative emission, which is amazing, and because of their offsettings, right? So trying to duplicate that to also US to reduce the emissions from US, which is going to help the company globally, right? And also try to tackle this scope number 2, because it is that scope that is actually making the company to spend a lot of money. I mean, not money, but actually to not to be able to get the zero emission, right? So I hope you have enjoyed the video. Me, I've actually enjoyed. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need the final document for any other project or this project. Just send me an email. So please subscribe to the channel so that you can receive more such videos, because remember, there are 2 types of projects. What I call learning projects. When you have learned a skill and then you want to develop a project, this is something. And they are what I call job projects, like this one. It shows to recruiter that you have the skills, you can get the job done, right? So please subscribe to the channel. If you have questions, put it in the comments. I'll be glad to answer. You can join our community. You can reach out to me. I am open to all of you guys. Thank you for all of you guys who subscribe to the channel, who send comments. I really appreciate, and then see you in the next video.